Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of Living World of Darkness Rage Across New York. In tonight's episode, we start the scene with three of our protagonists, wouldn't call them heroes, but protagonists, walking their way back onto Sept. They're specifically, Felix's head is hung a bit low. He has a bit of a defeated look on his face. And everyone, just all in all, doesn't feel quite comfortable with the things that have just happened. As they walk back onto Sept, they make their way to the Seeker's cabin on Sept, and they're all on the porch. And yeah, that's where we will begin our scene.
Yep, for the sake of clarification in the scene, 10 Point is currently sans antlers, so once they have returned to the porch and she has a moment to stop moving, her big blunt claws are going to go back and begin raking her mane back and away from the sides of her head. There are probably clips and the like nearby, as this is not infrequent these days. Though in Krynos, at least it's easier to just kind of streak back her mane and leave the nubs visible. So she will be focusing on that, at least initially.
Aedan is just coming out into the porch with a cup of tea. And, well, a teapot as well, and he will be pouring it, and getting cups, and he'll look at Felix. Tea?
Yes, please.
Yeah, and he'll pour him some, and there's milk and all that, and some and all the usual dandy things,
And there'll be a knock at the door.
We are
We're
on the porch.
dude.
Oh, you're on the porch, sorry. So yes, Aedan, Forlorn will approach, showing neck and throat, especially when he sees there's more than one higher ups. So he'll come. He won't go up to the porch. He'll go like at the bottom. No, wait for permission. He'll wait for permission to be said that he can come up.
And take a surprise, like his eyebrows are raised, like almost in surprise, kind of looking at Felix, like I didn't expect a cub. Take a sip. Suppose you can get up.
I'll get up.
For what it's worth, while that's going on, 10 Point has draped herself out alongside wherever Aedan has sat himself. Though, come Forlorn's approach, her ears kind of slick flat and her hackles rouse.
I'm here to report on the task you gave me. Came of Dragons, Raya.
Are you now? Kind of raise a curious eyebrow.
Yes, mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished? Well, that's grand and all. I'm surprised you'd come to me. I thought, you'd be more happy telling the den mother.
I don't need to tell den mother. She was there to help us.
Right. Okay. Well, kind of just nods. Good. At least you won't be running off Sept.
Look at you giving people stuff to do.
I was told to, apparently, so shrugs. Takes a sip of tea.
Yeah. Felix takes a sip.
Would that be all? He kind of looks at Forlorn like, is that it?
Forlorn will be like looking like he's waiting for something, and was like, you don't want a detailed report?
Oh, I suppose I should give that, shouldn't I? Kind of looks at Felix,
Shrug, takes a sip of the tea and is taken back a moment because he didn't know there was going to be milk in it because he knows American tea. And no, surprise for a second.
This is Irish tea. There's always milk in it. So he'll smile and look up. Right then, stand there. Points to across, like almost like he's like those contestants you see in these judging shows. Stand there and give me a good report.
So he'll he'll smile looking at the cross, and he'll go, um, we were all in the cub cabins when then father came and said that we were going to help Joe to get over his addiction, and the three of us went, well, four of us went into the spiritual realm, and sorry, someone's speaking. We went into the spirit realm, and then father spoke to spirits, and he managed to persuade them to help us, and we were taken to the past, to Joe's past, back when he was with his biological parents. We saw them screaming, and they were going to feed younger Joe the drugs. Joe had told them that he didn't no longer wanted to deal drugs, and his father said that if he didn't help the family, he wasn't going to be fed, and instead of giving him food, they tested the drugs on him. So we came. Joe was first to speak. He told them what a shame they were to do what they were doing to the child, and they started yelling. His mother took out a gun, and this is when then mother grappled her, and I disarmed her. They both kept yelling, even though we were telling them to shut up. So I pointed the gun at her, making her shut up. And when they did, once they did, Joe intimated them into stopping, which was done. The father had promised to never drug his child again, that he would treat him as a normal child. Once this was done,
Sorry.
the room went black, and then we were thrown into the future again, but not so far. This time we were with Joe, a little bit younger than he is now. 4 years from what he told us 4 years ago. And so we approached him, telling him that he didn't have to do what he was about to do. He was about to turn his life around in a very bad way. He was going to abuse drugs again. This was the day it all went extremely wrong. And so we tried to persuade him not to stop. We told him, Joe told him that he had family. He had his adopted sister, his adopted parents. But he didn't listen. He got angry at us, telling us he didn't have all of them. They were not there. We reminded him that they were only a phone call away. Still, he didn't listen to us. He started yelling. And when it was obvious that he wouldn't stop, we attacked him. We went to stop him. He turned, we saw that we were going to attack, he turned into, but then mother and I were quicker. We got on him, grappled him, and made sure that he wouldn't move a muscle. then a conversation between Joe and he'll like raise an eyebrow. Joe and Joe took on. We spoke to him, and with time, we managed to stop him. We came back to the real world, to our time, and when we came back, Joe felt relieved, more relieved than he had ever. He felt born again. He didn't feel the need or the urge of the drug, of the worm tainted substance.
There's a long silence as Aedan would take a point of rage for mentioning about that he's on 3 at the minute. So basically, he visibly tense around the cup as he stand up. He threatened his family.
They were feeding him a worm tainted substance.
He'll raise his hand. Forlorn. Lessons. Smile awkwardly. The hand's starting to tremor a bit.
He'll stop when they're.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah. That reminds me of something.
Oh shit. Felix takes a sip of his tea and then like a big gulp of his tea and offers the rest.
10 Point will actually have kind of, as Aedan was very abruptly on his feet and clenching this cup, 10 Point has kind of roused up off the floor of the porch and is kind of hovering behind him like a big lurching shadow. She's still hackling.
Yeah.
Now, lessons. You can hear the venom in his voice, but he's trying to keep calm, obviously. My family was very much like Joe's. Very poor. Very poor. So, do you think that violence is really going to solve his problems? Do you think pointing a gun?
It did solve the problem. This time, it's rarely the option to go. It's rarely the answer, but this time it solved the problem. I didn't threaten.
Right. So, pointing a gun at his mother's head in front of him? Do you know what that reminds me of, actually? And take another step, slowly putting the cup down, rubbing his face. Waiting for Lessons to answer,
What does that remind you of? Game of Dragons, Raya?
Reminds me of my father, how he died. And I hate, and he'll be right in Lessons' face, I hate how he died. Because somebody who is, in his mind, solving the problem with violence, pulled the trigger.
I didn't threaten her or even attack her before then mother grappled her.
A gun to the head is still a threat. And he kind of twists his head like, did you cock the hammer back? Did you put it right there? Did she cry in front of you, Lessons? Beg?
No, she simply shut up.
With fear, aye? And that make you feel good? As you start to circle.
For what it's worth, 10 Point is not circling. She just kind of remains kind of hovering in front of Forlorn. She's up to her full height at this point.
Yeah, Felix actually reclines back a little bit. He was already like preparing to get up. And he just like hunches over a little bit with his tea, sullen.
Well, answer me, Lessons. Did it make you feel good to have that power?
Not especially. I did what was needed at the time. Would. I don't like threatening people, but when there's no way around it, there's no way around it. They were obviously not going to. No.
Right. Just nod once. So what would have happened if you had to kill him? Lessons. That's another growl then added to it.
I had to kill Joey's mother.
Aye. Straight in the face.
I had the gun at her if she spoke. If she kept going, I wouldn't have shot her. I would have probably knocked her out.
Cranes his head. Then takes another long breath. And you know if she was kin?
We didn't have time to ask.
One
Didn't
of
have
them
time
must
to
have been
ask.
Raya. Did it not occur to any of you to perhaps cleanse the tainted kin, as opposed to threatening them? We have too few.
I'm not questioning Raya's orders if they were your orders. But you were supposed to demonstrate a methodology. You're the one who was supposed to show your intellect. That was your duty, wasn't it, as a Ragabash?
My duty was to help Joe with his addiction, however I could.
You wouldn't be
your
correcting your
first
Raya.
Aedan smiles, then suddenly twisting his head. Lessons, I'm going to explain something to you that I don't think you understand about what we are. Rushing in and putting a gun to a woman's head and saying, give up now and give the drugs away, is not always the way. You could have cleansed them. You could have done any avenue of substances. That's your job, to question every angle. That's fine for an Arun. That's fine for even a Galliard. But that's not what a Ragabash does. You understand me?
John nodded. Then mother's orders was to, well, we were to follow Joe. He was the one who knew how his parents were. He was the one that knew what was going to happen.
And did he tell you to put a gun to her head?
What? I did what at the time seemed right, and she didn't say anything at the time and didn't come back to me saying I did wrong.
You smile.
From what you told me, you also told me that the Ragabash need to do a bit of everything. And so at that time, I did, well, I threatened. I took another role, as I don't know, you told me Ragabash should be able to do.
So Ragabash threaten people. That's their only means, is it?
No, but this time it worked this time around, and as I said, I wasn't going to kill her if she kept going.
If she... Do you know what tribe I am, Lessons?
You're Fianna, Raya.
What do Fianna, as he arches himself up, like very wolf-like beside your ear, what do Fianna value most, no matter how bad they are?
Family?
And you're telling me you're coming here to tell me you've threatened the family? When you're a Ragabash and your duty is to pick every situation before you go in with the gun or the claw or rage. That's what you're telling me.
The rage had already started before I threatened her. And he is not Fianna.
The rage of a human is nothing, Cub.
Sorry, what was that?
The rage of a human is nothing, Cub.
Felix looks over at 10 Point and she's like, oh shit.
If I were you, Cub, I'd reevaluate what you do with yourself. Cub. You're just a follower. That's not what a Ragabash is. Now get out of my sight before I go in there and I do something reckless. Do you understand?
He'll nod. Yes, Raya.
Say it louder so I can hear you.
Yes, Raya.
And Aedan just stand there, arms folded, like, I mean, shaking with rage.
And if Lessons doesn't get the hint to go ahead and scoot, Tenpoint will turn her big head around again. Run back to the den, Mother, Cub. Perhaps she will pet you on the head.
He'll take a few steps back, and he'll go away. He'll walk away and go back towards their cub cabins.
Aedan will just take a long breath, you know, and kind of fold his hair out, and, you know, he'll basically slam the door of the cabin and walk in, you know.
And once he is slammed his way inside, Tenpoint will cast an earnestly apologetic look, actually, to Felix, and will drape herself in front of the cabin door in all of her glorious bulk.
And Felix will just like, yeah, he'll just shake his head like, it's all right. And just sip his tea, just popping his earbuds in and looking out onto the sept. And I think that may be a good place to end the scene. Thank you, players, for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. This has been another edition of Living World of Darkness, Rage Across New York. See you next time.